Okay, thank you for tuning in to part two. Let's show you an example of dollar cost averaging. Many of you, if not all of you, have seen this before, but it's a different thing to see it and to explain it. We have training classes at the office very frequently, and say, now, how many of you understand the rule of 72? And everybody's hand goes up. Say, okay, who wants to explain it? And maybe one or two hands go up. Well, now, why wouldn't everybody who says they understood it, why wouldn't they want to walk up and explain it? Because knowing something and explaining something is different. When you're securities licensed, you got to be able to explain it. So the more times you hear it explained, the better it is for you. So here we go. Dollar cost averaging. We're going to consider two companies, Company A, Company B. Company A is selling for $10 per share. And John wants to invest $100 per month. Okay? So he invests $100. It's $10 a share. So he's going to get 10 shares. But next month it goes up to $12 a share. Well, at $12 a share, he's going to get 8 and a fraction. Let's call it 9 shares. And then it goes up to $14 a share. So he's going to get 7 and some change. Let's call it 8. Then it goes up to $16 a share. So he's going to get 5 and some. He's going to get 6 and some change. Let's call it 7. Then it goes up to $18 a share. He's going to get 5 and some change. We'll call it 6. So notice we're giving it the benefit of the doubt in every case. And then finally it goes up to $20 a share, which means he gets 5 shares for his $100. Now this is Company A. Company B goes like this. Starts off at $10 a share. So the first month he gets 10 shares. Next month it stays at $10 a share. So the next month he gets 10 shares. Then it goes up to 12, which means he gets 8 and some change. Now I'm going to take away the advantage in every case. So we'll call it 8 shares. The next month it goes way down to 5. So he's going to get 20 shares. And then it goes up to 8. And so he's going to get 12 shares. And then finally it ends up at 15, which means he's going to get 6 shares. Okay? Now, how many shares did the guy investing in Company A have? 10, 19, 27, 34, 40, 45. 45, and it's $20 a share. So this guy has done a good job. He took $600, turned it into $900. Everybody would love to be able to do that. How about the Company B investor? Company B has 10, 20, 28, 48, 60, 66 shares. If you multiply that by 15, carry it. So he's going to end up with $990. And so with $990, he did better than the guy here that was in the rising market. Now here's the deal. Everybody would like to invest in a rising market because as the thing goes up, praise God, I've got more money. But the issue with dollar cost averaging is that when the thing goes down, praise God, I've got more shares. It's more powerful to have more shares than it is to have your account be worth a larger number of dollars. As long as it's got a track record that over time, it's at least stays the same or it goes up. Okay? That's the issue. So, I can leave that there for a while. Now, the reason it's called dollar cost averaging is because if you invest in a fluctuating market, it actually lowers the average dollar cost of your shares. The shares come out cheaper over the long haul than if it were in a rising market the whole time. And so you end up with more money in your account at the end. Okay? Dollar cost averaging. Let's see, what else did I want to cover about this? Oh, the 3 ways that you get paid in a mutual fund, and we'll be done for today with mutual funds. Remember that in a bank you earn money only with interest. When you hear the word interest in an investment environment, it means somebody is borrowing money from somebody. When you put money into the bank, they're borrowing money from you. It's not their money, it's your money. They're borrowing the money from you, and so they have to pay you interest on your money. Now, what are they going to do? You're going to put the money into Bank of America and they're going to run next door to Wells Fargo and put the money in a bank? No. As I mentioned before, they're going to put the money into the economy. They're going to earn 8, 10, 12, 14, 22% on that money, and they're going to keep the profits. And oh, by the way, here's your 0.5% of interest. And maybe even a toaster. Probably not the toaster anymore. But the way that you get paid in mutual funds is 3 different ways. Number 1. So let me say, how do mutual funds pay you? Number 1, they're called capital gains. I like capital gains because capital gains are actual profit. Now, let me give you an example. You put the money into the mutual fund. The mutual fund invests in those, let's say, 150 different companies. Okay? Say 80 of those companies make a profit. And so the board of directors of the company say, oh, we're going to, okay, well, no, that's a little different. Let's say that they buy IBM stock at this price, and then later they sell IBM stock at this price. The difference between the two is called a capital gain. And that has to be paid out to you. The mutual fund can't just sit on all that money. They've got to pay it out to you. Otherwise, they end up paying taxes that you should have paid. So they're going to pay the money out to you in what are called capital gains, and you'll get those. Now, if you've held this thing for over a year, then it's a long-term capital gain, and there's a tax advantage to that. Less than a year, it's a short-term tax capital gain. You're going to be taxed pretty much at ordinary income, depending on who's in Congress at the time. But that's a capital gain. Actual profit that the mutual fund makes when they buy at this price and they sell a company at a higher price, they had a capital gain. Now, second way that they pay is what's called a dividend. And a dividend, they invest in a company, they invest, say, in IBM stock, and IBM has a profitable year. Board of directors declares a dividend. The dividend gets paid to the mutual fund. You think the mutual fund is allowed to sit on that dividend and keep it? No, they can't do that. They have to distribute it to you. Now, there are percentages. You're going to learn about this when you take your exam, but they have to distribute substantially all of it to you. Okay? So you get that dividend, and that doesn't have any preferred tax treatment right now, but you do get to keep the dividends from those. You got paid in 2 ways. The third way is appreciation. The reason it's called appreciation is because you appreciate it when it goes up. You buy the mutual fund at $13 a share and you sell it later at $16 a share. The mutual fund itself appreciated. Okay? The net asset value that we were talking about has gone up. So that's another way that you get paid with mutual funds. 3 ways instead of 1. And of course, the 4th way that you can make money is through dollar cost averaging. This is not something that the mutual fund pays you. This is something that you pay yourself by the way you invest. I like to invest on the 17th of the month. So 17th of a month, I put the money into the account, and if the market is high, praise God, I've got more money in my account. If The market is low. Praise God, I just bought more shares. And so, you know, you get to praise God all the time when you invest in a mutual fund. So we're done with mutual funds. Next time, and we're not done at all today, but next time we're going to be talking about annuities. There are different features of annuities, how they're offered. They do have some guarantees depending on the annuity. So stay tuned. Next time we'll talk about that next week. But for now, I want to shift gears. You know, when you talk to people, it's not often that you say to a person, how did you like that overview on Thursday night at 7:30? If you think I'm doing a commercial, you're right. Please use 7:30 Thursday nights to your advantage. Now, at the time I'm making this video, we're doing those by Zoom. You can build a team. Listen to this. You can build a team more easily on Zoom meetings than in person, because it's easier to get a person to turn on their computer than it is to get a person to get in your car and come to the office. So this is the time that I hope you're building like crazy, because it's easier to build a team by Zoom. Oh, but Dave, if we can't get together and do an appointment, we can't make any money anyway. Yes, you can. There are people making money on Zoom. I've been making money on Zoom. You can actually do the presentations. You can share your screen. They can sign the application. You can do everything on Zoom that you can do in person. And honestly, I predict that the way Primerica people do business in the future will be less nose to nose and more Zoom to Zoom. So we'll see what happens there. But at any rate, how often is it that you ask a person to watch the Zoom business overview and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll be happy to," and then they turn it on, they watch it, and then right at the end of that, you give them a call. "Hi, John. So does this sound like this is something you could sink your teeth into?" Now, there are certain questions and certain responses that are the kiss of death, guaranteed for you to lose in Primerica with certain phrases. I don't use the word recruit. I use words like adding associates to your organization, because I don't want somebody thinking this is a little Mickey Mouse multi-level whatever it is, okay? I want people to know this is a brokerage, and we're inviting people to get involved as agents with our brokerage, and so you're adding associates to your team, but recruiting, leave that stuff to, I won't even name the companies, but you know what they are. You probably buy your vitamins from them. Okay, so when certain words are a bad idea to use. I don't use the words opportunity meeting. That's a multi-level phrase. I use either business overview or business briefing. Right now we're using the words business overview. I like that. That's really what it is. It's an overview of our business for a brand new person to watch. But now, how often do you say, well, does this sound like something you could sink your teeth into? Well, one of the kisses of death is if you say, well, John, what did you think? That's not the right question to ask at the end of that overview. Because what did you think? Well, Dave, you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm going to go think about it. You don't make any money by them thinking about it, okay? They've got to come aboard and they've got to get trained. So you don't want to give them something to think about. You want to give them something to chew on. So John, does this sound like something that you could sink your teeth into? And more often than not, he'll say, yeah, I suppose I could. The next thing you say is, great, let me ask you some questions and make sure you qualify to come and work with us. That takes away the cookie a little bit. You know, you don't want to take the opportunity and stuff it down his throat and hope that he swallows it. You want him to think this is something you've got to be good enough for. We don't let everybody aboard. And folks, in my organization, we don't let everybody aboard. Just recently, we turned down another person. We don't bring aboard everybody. If I have any doubts about somebody, now I don't judge them, but if they give me a reason to believe that they are not character individual, they ain't coming into my organization. So the phrase, we want to give them some, what did you think, is a wrong phrase. You want to join? Nobody wants to join. In fact, Art Williams used to say, dadgummit, folks, nobody wants to join nothing. Nobody wants to buy nothing. Nobody wants to sell nothing, but everybody needs a dadgum income. And that's it. It's opportunity that's for sale here. And we want to make that clear. John, does it sound like something you could sink your teeth into? Now, how many times is John going to say, man, I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Once in a while, that's exactly what they'll say. I had one say that a few weeks ago. Praise God for it. But not always. Some people, you have to work with them a little bit. And they're going to give you what most people call objections. Now, it doesn't mean they object to you. It doesn't mean that they are rejecting you. It means they don't have all the information yet. So, for example, and I've got a list of objections. Now, usually at this time, I'll make my $100 offer if you can come up with an objection that people have actually given you, and I can't answer it on the spot, then here's a Ben Franklin for you. And in all the years I've been making that offer, I ain't had nobody come up with something that I couldn't answer on the spot, because I've been here too long. I've been here 35 years. I've heard every possible objection, and here are some of them. Dave, it sounds interesting, but I don't have time. Now, there's a recipe that's called feel, felt, found. You can't use it on every objection, otherwise they feel like you're doing all of this by algorithm. But feel, felt, found sounds something like this. Boy, John, I know exactly how you feel. When I got involved, I didn't think I had any time either. I felt the same way. But let me tell you what I found out. Feel, felt, found. Here's what I found out. I found out that they were willing to make my schedule according to my timing. They didn't do it according to their timing. The only thing that a person needs to do during our timing is they need to show up for training on Saturday, which means watching this video, and they need to show up either by video or by being in person when we're allowed to do that at the office at 7:30 on Thursday. Otherwise, they're not going to get a business built. But other than that, everything is based on their own time. And I didn't have any time when I got involved. I was the choir director at the church. I was the organist. I was the pianist. I was doing a Wednesday night Bible study. I was trying to get to know my fiance, and she had a couple of kids. I was trying to spend some time with them. I mean, I didn't have any time left. But what I found out was that my trainer said, well, Dave, let me find out when you've got a little bit of time. We'll sandwich something into there, and we'll build a team for you. Your district manager or whoever is a manager who's training you, let them build a team for you. So the timing is your own. So, John, is there anything else that you're concerned about? Pull it out of him. He might say, I'm sorry, I don't have the $124 to get involved. Now, right now when I'm doing this video, it's not $124, it's $74. So that's better. But whichever one it is, let's say it's the $124. Dave, I don't have the $124. And now here's where I'm going to reach in and grab their heart a little bit. John, isn't it frustrating to be working at the company that you've been working at for all these years, and having $124 is a challenge for you? Hey, let's solve that problem. Let's get you involved. Now, if you have an RVP who's really nice, he might cough up that money if that person's the right kind of person, just to get them involved. But if they don't have $124, if they like the idea of getting involved with Primerica and they don't have the $124, let's figure out a way to solve that problem, because we can take care of that for them one way or another. All right? We cannot, and in my organization we will not, pay a person who is not licensed. But there are ways that we can help a person get the money by having, if you're a nice manager and you're making pretty decent money, and you decide you want to pay the licensing fee for the person, you can't pay them, but you pay their fee. So one way or another, we don't want to keep a good person from getting involved because of $124. Okay? Another one. Dave, I'm not a salesperson. And this is the last one we're going to handle today. I'm not a salesman. And you know what I'll tell that person? Praise God, you're not a salesman. If you were a salesman, we'd put you on probation. I've had salespeople that wanted to get involved with my organization, and I had to turn them down simply because they knew how to go for the jugular vein. They knew how to close a sale. Folks, I don't want those people. I want people who want to help individuals, who want to let people retire in dignity, who want to give them coverage that they don't have, who want to change a family's life. The number of lives I've changed in the last 35 years is astounding. And this is not to pat myself on the back. Those people came to me 20, 30 years later, and they patted me on the back because their lives were changed. We made them wealthy. But let's start with your life. Let's change your life. Now, I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to go over a little bit, and I hope you'll forgive me for doing this. There's a book, you've probably heard about it. It's written by Napoleon Hill, and it's called Think and Grow Rich. Now, I'm not particularly money motivated. I love God. God says you can't serve money and God at the same time. So I don't serve money. I know that it's necessary to have money to survive in the economy, to be able to buy food for your family. And I love the idea of being successful. But in order to be successful, a person does have to change the way they think. And I learned this a long time ago from Mr. Hartman. The difference between a person who makes a little bit and a person who makes a lot is the way they think. And part of the way they think is in this book. I don't care at all about anything in this book except page 36. You can read whatever you want of the rest of it if you want to. But this is how to be successful through goal setting. You have to set goals in order to reach them. It's an old saying that says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. So we have to aim at something. Number one, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. Now, you can't do that by saying, oh, I want lots of money. That's not good enough. Well, I want enough to feed my family. That's not good enough. If you want to start part-time and you want to say, I need $1,000 a month, that's good enough. $1,000 a month. Fix your mind on the exact amount that you need in order to reach your objectives. The exact amount. Okay? Fix your mind on it. Number two, hopefully you're taking notes. I always tell people, it scares me, people when I taught college, it scares me that you're sitting here hearing me say the word slowly and I don't see smoke coming out of your pencil. What in the world are you doing in the class if you're not taking notes and learning this stuff? And then people always grab their pencil. Well, grab your pencil for heaven's sakes. Number one, determine the exact amount of money. Now, if you're full-time and you need $6,000 a month, for example, write that down. Okay, number two. Determine exactly what you're willing to give in return for the money that you need. Money isn't going to come flying into your post office box or into your mailbox just by chance. You've got to give something up. I had somebody say, well, Dave, I just can't say no. Now, I was a little sarcastic with her, I said, well, let me help you with that. You take your tongue, put the tip of it up on the roof of your mouth, and vocalize as you pull your tongue down, and it'll come out no. Okay? Very simple to say no. What do you have to say no to? Now, most of the people we bring aboard, they're good people. So I'm assuming you don't have to say no to bad things. You don't have to say, well, no to robbing a bank. You don't have to say no to this, but you might have to say no to watching Gilligan's Island reruns on TV. You might have to say no to attending a couple of functions that your boss asked you to go to. My boss? I can't say no to my boss. Yeah, you can. But there are some things that you've got to say no to, because you've got to have time to build a business. We'll manage the time according to what you're able to do, but you've got to set some time apart. You've got to be willing to give up some things in order to be successful. Well, Dave, I'm not going to drive more than 20 miles to pick somebody up and take them to the meeting. And my answer to that is, what? I used to drive from my home in Lakewood to Torrance. If you live in Southern California, you know what I'm talking about. All the way to Torrance, pick the guy up, bring him all the way to Orange County, to Anaheim, to a meeting, and then at the end of that meeting, take him all the way back to Torrance, to his home, and then come back to my home in Lakewood. And I do that twice a week so that he could attend the training and he could attend a Thursday night meeting. Why would I do that? 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to build an organization, and I built a good one. Number 2, I have that guy's attention for every minute we're in the car. This guy's a captive audience. He ain't going to jump out of the car. I get to talk to him about Primerica the whole way. So what am I willing to give up? I'm willing to give up a little inconvenience. The gentleman who is filming this video for me right now just drove here from Corona. Folks, that's not across the street. That's Corona, because he's a part of this. He's building an organization. He has things that he wants to accomplish. And I really appreciate Juan for doing this. Number 3, establish a definite date when you intend to have that money in your hand. Well, I need $1,000 a month. Fine. By when do you want to start making $1,000 a month? What's your deadline? Oh, as soon as possible. That's not good enough. But if this is the month of May, which it is right now, you might say, you know, by the end of June, I want to have made $1,000 in the month of June. You can do that. You can do that. Even if you're a brand new person, you can make that. But we got to get off our duff and start earning it. We've got to do the things that your RVP sets out for you. You've been given a module, Doug Hartman's module for what do I need to do in order to get to district leader. You know exactly what to do. You start nagging your manager and start getting those appointments done, because you need to make that $1,000 in a month. Put a date on it, an exact date. Number 4, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. Now, what does that mean? Your RVP can help you with this, and I'm happy to sit down with anybody in my organization to do this. You take that date, you back it back to today, and find out precisely what activity needs to be done in order to hit that goal by that date. Okay? And I'm happy to help with that. I know Riley is willing to help with that. Doug Hartman is willing to help with that. People can back that back to today and say, okay, here's what you need to do by Thursday. Here's what you need to do by the following week. And here's how that accelerates until you've met that goal in your time frame, not in ours. Number 5, write it out. Put it in writing. A clear, concise statement of the money and the date when you plan to have that money. A clear, concise statement. Now, you put it into writing. Why would I put it into writing? Just writing it down starts to seal it in your memory. But that's not good enough either. Number 6, read your statement out loud twice a day So I recommend putting it either on the mirror in your bathroom or putting it on the refrigerator. Now for me, it'd be the refrigerator because I don't like to look at myself in the mirror, but I do like to look in the refrigerator. Okay, so put it someplace where you're going to remember and read it, not by eyeball, read it out loud twice a day. And Napoleon Hill is a master at knowing how to think in order to grow rich. Folks, I don't recommend the rest of the book. That's up to you. But I recommend page 36, and you now have it all in writing. So God bless you guys. We will see you next week. Welcome to Saturday training. Unless, of course, you happen to be watching it on some other time other than Saturday, because I leave these training classes up. But it's always nice to meet with you, even though it's virtual instead of face-to-face. I'm looking forward to the time when we can do this face-to-face, so I can hear the uproarious laughter when I open my mouth. But today I've got 3 really important things that I want to do, and hopefully we'll have time for all 3 of them. We talked last time about the subject of securities. We talked about the hierarchy of risk, started talking about the advantages of mutual funds. There are more, and I want to discuss some of those today, and then I want to go from there into how people will respond to you and how you should respond to their responses. So that's a huge part of this business. So we'll do that second. First, mutual funds. I mentioned last time that mutual funds don't pay interest. They pay in 3 ways. So when a person says, why should I not have my money in the bank? The answer is because banks pay relatively low interest. People put their money into the bank puts their money into the economy, and the bank is able to get higher rate of returns. If you take a look at the interest rate on your credit card, you know that they're not getting 2 or 3%. They're getting more like 23%. And if you follow the rest of the money, they invest, they lend the money out. Now, you may think interest rates are low right now. The poor banks are lending this money out, and people are getting mortgages at 2.75% interest. How can the bank make any money on 2.75%? That's not how the bank makes its money. The bank makes its money by discounting these loans and selling them off and keeping profits from that. And so don't cry tears for the banks. They're making money hand over fist from the loans, from their investments, and real estate holdings, and all sorts of different things. Now, when people put their money into the bank, they put their money in there to make sure that it's protected. That money is guaranteed. It's guaranteed against loss. Wrong. It's FDIC guaranteed against the loss of principal. That's market risk. Market risk is the risk that if a person puts money into one of the markets, whether it's the bond market or the stock market, or then there is a risk of losing that money. That's market loss. But those are not by any means the only risks that people have to try to manage. You cannot avoid risk. You should repeat this after me, because you're going to say this to your clients many, many times. John and Mary, you cannot avoid risk. There are several kinds. Let me explain. First, as I said, there is market risk. This is the risk that a poor performance in whatever market they're investing in, stock market, bond market, whatever it is, that may lose, that may fly south, and they'll lose money. That can happen. And so FDIC insurance with the banks or the other institutions, the credit unions have their own version too. that protects against that loss of principal. But that's not by any means the only risk that people encounter when they put money away. Another one is what's called purchasing power risk, otherwise known as inflation. This is particularly important right now because when people put their money into the banks, they get a very low rate of return. Now, at the time that I'm making this video, interest rates in the banks and the savings and loans is less than 1%. The interest rate in a savings account at my own credit union is less than 0.5%. They're really pathetic. And of course, interest rates keep going down. The Fed keeps lowering interest rates. That may not be the case if you're watching this video years from the time that I'm making this video. I'm making this video, you know, Columbus is standing over here. It's 1493. But things will change. But right now, those are the circumstances. Now, is inflation at less than 0.5%? No, not by any stretch. Inflation is 2, 3, 4, 5%, depending on whether you include food products and include gasoline, things like that. It's hilarious to me that when the government figures out inflation rates, they will very often figure subsidized inflation rates, which means certain things are left out. You know, the last time I checked, I wasn't able to go without buying gasoline. I wasn't able to go without buying food. I'm sure you can see that. So those things have to be included in the rate of inflation. And so it's very often higher than you will hear it quoted, depending on what's being quoted. But at any rate, nobody is quoting less than 0.5% for inflation. So what happens? A person puts $10,000 into the bank, and 0.5% of $10,000 is $50. $50 a year. Now, suppose that inflation is only 3%. 3% of $10,000 is $300. So in the first year alone, you lost $250 in purchasing power. Prices going up at 3%, your money going up at 0.5%, you're already behind the 8 ball after the year is over. Purchasing power risk, inflation risk, that's one of the biggest disasters with putting away your money with a guarantee. And I usually tell people, when you hear the word guarantee, with very few exceptions, run, don't walk in the opposite direction. Because those guarantees cost a lot of money. And that money is going to come from you. It's going to come from you in depleted interest rates. So guarantees are no way to invest for the future. But even though you can't avoid risk, you have to manage risk. You have to be able to control the risks that you're worried about. Now, how do you control market risk? You can't control the stock market, the bond market, unless you're in one of those organizations that does exactly that. The way that you manage your own risk is through diversification, through asset allocation. Now, diversification means, and we talked about this last time, putting your eggs in lots of different baskets. A single diversified mutual fund does that for you. They do it for you. So what's a diversified mutual fund? You'll know when you get ready to take the Series 6 exam, but we talked about the two features of it in the last video. But the other way is asset allocation. Making sure that your mutual fund is invested not only in lots of different companies, because a lot of them are in 150 different companies, but making sure that they're in different sectors. Some money in the utility sector, some in the transportation sector, some in food, some in banking, all sorts of different sectors across the economy, so that if this part of the economy is getting killed, this part over here it maybe is not. Everybody's going to need utilities, for example. It's tough to go through the year without turning on your electricity, your gas, your telephone. Utilities are a huge thing that are always required. Food is always required. Banking is always required. I don't put any money into a savings account at all. I have, at my credit union, I have a checking account, obviously, and in order to have that checking account, I have to have $5 in a savings account. So that's how much money I have in savings, $5. Actually, last year they paid me 1 penny in interest, so I have 501 in my, in my savings account. Everything else is invested, and it should be, but it should be invested with somebody who knows what they're doing. Primerica people are trained. We know what we're doing. Securities licensed people are able to make those decisions. And if you're newly securities licensed and you're not really comfortable with those decisions, you're not comfortable with, well, what fund should I put a client in if this is their objective, this is their tolerance for risk? And the answer is, go talk to your RVP. And now, in the case of most of the people watching this video, I know that there are some others, but you know who your RVP is. I'm the RVP for a number of the people watching this video. But ask your RVP, should I invest it this way? How should I do this? Here's my client, they're 73 years old, or they're 21 years old. Let's make those decisions together so that there aren't any questions. And then eventually, when you're an RVP, you'll be confident answering those questions for your organization. So, purchasing power risk, the way that you manage that risk is get a higher rate of return. Make sure that you are outperforming inflation, not by a little bit, by a bunch. Now, we're not allowed to say, oh, in a mutual fund, you can get this rate of return. You can get 9%, you can get 12%. Back in the old days, we had a mutual fund that did 19.8%. People were running around saying, you can get 19.8% in a mutual fund. All that stuff is illegal. You can't do any of that. All you can do is tell people what it's done in the past, and you can't even do that unless you hand them a prospectus. And if you hand them a prospectus and you're not securities licensed, we'll visit you in jail, probably every 60 days or so. You can't do that. So how do people manage risk? Securities licensed individual shows them a mutual fund that has a history of such and such rate of return. And that's how you manage purchasing power risk. We talked about other kinds of risk last time. Liquidity risk, I'm going to put it up here for completeness, but we did talk about this last time. One of the advantages of a mutual fund is that they are liquid. That doesn't mean you take your liquid fund and put it in a blender, and look, it means you can get your money. If you sell it, you can get your money. But to whom do you sell it? And that's the other part. They are marketable. Well, marketability risk is how do you sell the silly thing? Who are you going to sell it to? You have to sell your mutual fund to somebody else? No. You sell the mutual fund back to the mutual fund. Now, an interesting thing happens when you do that. And I'm not going to go real deeply into it, but it's got to be on one of these videos. So this is the one. Mutual funds are priced at what's called the net asset value. Generally referred to as NAV. That's the value of the mutual fund on any particular day. And so if you have 100 shares and the shares are selling for $13 a share, then you could sell it, and if it's still 100 shares when that sale gets processed, then you get $1,300. That plain simple arithmetic. But mutual funds, most of them, have what's called a sales charge. The sales charge is what gets tacked onto the net asset value so that people like me can get paid. You know, I'm a nice guy, but you know, I don't do what I do for free. So in order to get people paid, there is a sales charge that's made up of the two parts. I talked about them last time, the underwriter's concession and the dealer's concession, and I get paid my percentage of the dealer's concession. All securities licensed people do. Okay, so there are some funds that are really no-load funds. Boy, you know, I hate to go real deeply into this, but I'm going to go a little deeply into it. So keep your thinking caps on. Mutual funds are sold in different share types. There are A shares and B shares and C shares and all sorts of different kinds of shares. B shares have no upfront sales charge. And so people think, oh, cool, a no-load fund. The word load, by the way, in securities is synonymous with the words sales charge. Sales charge, load. Okay? Now, if it doesn't have any upfront sales charge, doesn't mean it's a no-load fund. If they sell them with B shares or C shares, then you may pay the sales charge later. With B shares, for example, they have what's called a CDSC, a contingent deferred sales charge. It's a sales charge just like it says it is. CDSC is a back end load, so they get you in the rear end. Okay, that's what B shares do. A shares get you in the front end. Let me ask you this. Would you rather pay a 5% sales charge up front, let the thing grow to whatever it's going to grow to, and not have to worry about any more sales charges? Or would you rather have the thing grow to $500,000 and then have to pay a percentage of that when you take it out? See, I'd like to pay the percentage up front when it's small, when it hasn't had a chance to grow. Okay, there are many variations on what I just told you, and so make sure that you learn them. You'll learn them before you take your Series 6 and 63 exams. But no load means no sales charge, period. The most well-known mutual funds that have no sales charge and no load funds are money market funds, and we talked about that last time. Those are funds whose purpose is to just protect your principal. They pay very low return. Return is not the purpose of them. Protecting the principal is the purpose of them. So if somebody comes to me and says, Dave, I want to invest for a year and a half, saving money for a house, I'm going to say, fine, we'll put you into a money market. Oh, no, I hear that they have a lousy rate of return. Yep, lousy. But they protect your principal. If you want that money to be there when you're ready to buy the house, put it into a money market fund. And I will not put people's money into a really invested mutual fund, in other words, other than a money market, for less than 3 years. That's personal preference. I won't do it. And if you're in my organization, I won't approve your sale if you do it. That's just because I'm a beast. It's what I do. Now, other risks. Taxation risk. This is the last one that I'm going to talk about today. There are others. Taxation risk goes like this. Suppose you do get a 3% rate of return on your investment. You get $10,000, you invested at 3%, you got $300 at the end of the year. Well, this is where the IRS goes, I smell that $300. I want my part of it. If you're in a 25% tax bracket, for example, they just walked away with $75. And so you really only got 2.25% rate of return. Everybody with me? You only get to keep $225. And so that's an example of taxation risk. Dave, how can I protect against taxation risk? Treasury Department's going to come after me no matter, right? There are two ways. One of them we talked about last time. It's called a municipal bond fund. If you put the money into a municipal bond fund, then you're not going to pay federal income tax on the return of that fund. If you put money into a Roth IRA, now in order to have a Roth IRA, you have to be employed. You have to have actively earned money. You can't have only passive money. If you're living off your interest in your Social Security check, don't ask about a Roth IRA, it ain't going to happen. But if you have earned income, legal earned income, you can put the money into a Roth IRA. Don't put your drug sales, into a Roth IRA, but you can put your money into a Roth IRA, and then if you have it in there for at least 5 years, when you take that money out at the end, when you're ready for retirement, you can take all or part of it out tax-free. Tax-free. Is that a big deal or a little deal? The taxes on $1 million, you're going to pay $300,000 on it. I mean, it's gargantuan. So it's going to suck out the rate of return. But the taxes on a Roth IRA with $1 million is zero. So that's a huge deal. And we recommend Roth IRAs to our clients. There are other kinds of IRAs, several other kinds. We're going to talk about that in the future, but for right now, most of your working people are going to put money into a Roth IRA, money that they put away for retirement. Okay? So these are other risks that I wanted to talk to you about. There's another way of kind of controlling your rate of return. Now, you don't have control over the mutual fund. A mutual fund is managed by what are called investment advisors. I'm hoping that a number of you get a license as an investment advisor with us, but that's who runs mutual funds. And these mutual funds, you have no control over the rate of return, except that you can do what's called dollar cost averaging. We started to mention that last time, but I want to show you exactly how that works for now. Let's pause the video for just a moment.
I believe desire and will to win is everything. I don't know why I'm like I am, but my butt's always burning. There's always something say, Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to go for it. Art, dadgummit, you're supposed to be somebody. You're supposed to make a difference with your life. What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. You look at the outside and study those two individuals, everything seems to be the same. They both are the same sex, they both are the same age, they have the same training, the same positions, the same contract, the same fringe benefits. They both are successful, they work hard, they're good family people, make tough commitments. But what's the difference? What does the $500,000 a year person do? The $50,000 a year person doesn't do. He pays the price and a little bit more. He works hard and a little bit more. He's loyal to the company and a little bit more. He believes in a little bit more. He makes money and a little bit more. He saves money and a little bit more. If you want to win in these United States, you got to be tough and you can't quit. The last thing I'll talk to you about today in building this winning edge is, folks, if you want to win in business, you got to be a leader. Leadership is everything. You show me anything in these United States that win, I'll show you a leader at work. You show me a successful church, Boy Scout troop, club, football team, business, I'll show you something run by a leader. See, I thought at one time in my life you had to be smart to win. I used to have these smart people that dress so pretty and talk so pretty and use these big words. They just intimidated me. And I said, Art, you can't ever be that good. Why don't you just throw in the towel and go on back and coach football for a living? And I found two things out about smart people. I think it's almost impossible for a smart person to win in business in America today. Because I find smart people spend their whole lifetime figuring things out. They're always trying to figure out an easier way and a quicker way. And another thing I found out about smart people is they just don't get around to doing nothing. And see, somebody like Art Williams, everybody said, well, he can't do it. And somebody like that can't do it. But he does it. See, folks, I want you to know almost everybody in America almost does enough to win. They almost get there. They almost are over the hump. They almost have it going. They almost, in everything they do, almost is a way of life to almost everybody in America. But the winners do it. What do? They do whatever it takes to get the job done. They do it and do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to be somebody they're proud of. We need leaders in America who can do it. If you want to become somebody, do it. If you want to go in business for yourself, do it. If you want to become financially independent, do it. I hear too much talk in these United States. Everybody can talk a good game. We need people in America who can do it. I go all over this country with A.L. Williams, and I have people say, Art, you can count on me. Wonderful. Just do it. Art, I guarantee you this is my last stop. I'm going to win now. Super duper. Just do it. Art, if I could just have one good month and get the ball going, I know I could make it big. Super. Just do it. Art, if I could just pay off this debt, I could really go. Great. Just do it. Art, if I could just sell my house. Do it. But houses ain't selling. Do it anyway. Art, I'm not making any money. What can I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, I guarantee I'm going to win this contest. Super duper. Just do it. Art, I'm over the hump now. Watch my smoke. Great. Just do it. Art, I want to make it so bad I can taste it. What I do? You just do it. Art, I'm a vice president now. Can I quit doing it? No. Art, I don't know if I can keep on keeping on. I'm really hurting. What I do? You just do it. Do what, Art? You do it and do it and do it. Art, all my life I wanted to be somebody important. Well, what do it then? Art, I'm going to save money so I don't have to go through this again. Great. Just do it. Art, I don't feel like I've had enough training. What I do? You just do it. Art, my manager don't give me no help. What I do? You just do it. Art, you don't understand. I was Mr. Everything at my former company. You don't mean I have to start off down at the bottom and do it, do you? Yep, you really got to do it. Art, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it. They do it and do it and do it and do it until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to finally have achieved something unique, and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else, and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of and make a difference with their life. Thank you.